Hello, everyone. Welcome to the OpenActive Adoption Engagement Forum on 11th of December 2024. So this is the last community meeting that we are hosting this year. Thanks, everyone, for joining. I'll start with the usual reminders that if you're not already, then please do join our OpenActive Slack workspace. It's a really good place to keep up to date with all the latest goings on in OpenActive and sort of communicate and collaborate with other people in the community on projects and things that are going on. So, and yeah, great place to ask questions as well. So if you're not already part of that Slack workspace, then please do sign up. Quick look at what we've got on the agenda today. So we'll start with usual introductions, just to help everyone get to know the other people in the community. And then Andrew Newman, my colleague, who you probably, most of you will know as the project lead for OpenActive at the Open Data Institute. He's going to be leading the session today. It's going to be a mixture of reflections on the year that we've just been, so get thinking about any particular highlights you've had in terms of OpenActive or the work that you've been doing in your organizations related to data and OpenActive over the year. And then we'll also be having a look ahead to what's coming up next year. And so, as I say, we'll start with the usual round of introductions. So I'll start with myself. My name is Tim Corby, and I'm a consultant at the Open Data Institute, part of the project team here that stewards OpenActive on behalf of the community. And I'll go to my colleagues next, I suppose. So Howard, if I come to you next.
Hi, Howard Askew. Working on some of the technical support and some of the technical the specifications and some of the tooling around OpenActive.
Great, thanks, Howard. And Darren?
Yeah, hi everyone. Darren Temple, technologist at the ODI. Similarly with Howard, working on the tech infrastructure for OpenActive.
And I think I'll leave Andrew to last, then I can seamlessly transition to to him and his slides. So if I come to you next, Grace.
Hi, yeah, I'm Grace. I work for SASP, so Summit Activity and Sports Partnership, and I help them with their activity finder.
Great, thanks, Grace. Jules?
Yep, I'm Jules from York Sport Foundation, comms manager, so very much involved in the websites and other functions like that.
Thanks, Jules. Noam?
Hi, my name is Noam. I work for Upshot. And yeah, it's my first session today, so I'm mainly looking to learn and see what's going on.
Brilliant. No, thank you very much for joining us. We're really pleased to have you here. So thank you for joining us. Yasmin.
Hi, I'm Yasmin. I'm Everyday Active Officer at Active Kent and Medway.
Great, thank you very much. And Tom.
Hi everyone, Tom Marley. We make activity finders and yeah, aim to make sport and physical activity easier to access online.
And thanks, Tom. And so, yeah, I guess I will then come to my last ODI colleague on the call, Andrew, and he can kick off and lead us into today's session.
Great, thanks, Tim. So I'm Andrew Newman. I'm Principal Data Specialist at the ODI, and I'm the project lead for ODI's OpenActive project. And what Tim has asked me to do today is lead a bit of a review of the year for OpenActive. And he's also asked me to kind of provide a bit of a forward look about what happens next. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do. I'd also like to hear what other people's views on the year are as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to very quickly canter through every month of the year, and I'm going to pick one thing in that month that I think was notable or important. And hopefully that will give you a sense of the breadth and the depth of the work that we've been doing on OpenActive here at ODI. So Tim is going to look after the slides. So if we start with January, I think the key thing in January was that we were able to start an extension to the Phase 5 work that we'd been doing on OpenActive. So Phase 5 ran from July 2022 through till December 2023. And that phase of work was set up to essentially make OpenActive sustainable for the long term. And what we realised that as we approached last December was that it wasn't job done. And we had some really constructive conversations with Sport England about actually what we needed to do to get to a point of sustainability. And we negotiated an extension to our funding agreement, and that extension funding agreement focused on governance, infrastructure, use cases, communications, and project oversight. And it was a case of doing more of the things that we were already doing. So in the governance space, we had an objective to develop a business case for OpenActive with an aim to moving it to an independent organisation. We had a really comprehensive suite of work to maintain and enhance the data infrastructure, and a really ambitious package of work to build use case communities and deliver use cases. And finally, we wanted to continue our work to measure the impact of OpenActive. So actually, January for me, the highlight was being able to start that extension period and continue the good work that we're already doing. In February, and actually, I think my brain might have mixed up the dates here because this might have been January and March, but I'm going to say in February, we were able to do quite a lot of work on launching some code packages that we'd been developing. So throughout the end of the initial period, we've been developing code libraries for OpenActive to make it easier to use OpenActive data in R and Python to enable data analysts and scientists and others quicker ways to access OpenActive data. And we quietly released those bits of code around February time. We more formally launched them with a blog post in May once we were confident that bugs had been addressed. The R code's presented in the form of a tutorial that you can follow to implement a simple activity finder. And the Python code is accompanied by a simple app that users can deploy. So what we've done with this R and Python code is create a really quick way of engaging with the OpenActive data. And we know that these packages are being used, and we're getting feedback on them, which is really nice. In March, my highlight in March was that we actually published an impact report outlining what we'd achieved so far in phase 5. And the infographic that was in the report there is on the screen there, and I think it shows the kind of really nicely the breadth and the depth of our work. It talks about the kinds of organisations we've worked with. It talks about some of the work we've done around data quality, but I think it shows that our approach was working. By April, we were really up and running with our project. One of the things we wanted to achieve in the extension was to broaden out our engagement. And on this slide, you can see some of the stakeholders that we are engaging with around this time. And there are a really broad range of organisations. You've got government organisations, you've got not-for-profits, you've got sports governing bodies, you've got active partnerships, you've got campaigns. We've made a really good job of reaching out into the physical activity community, making connections with organisations and starting to understand how OpenActive can help them, and working with them to show how OpenActive can help them. Also in April, the steering committee published a new strategic direction for OpenActive. This new strategic direction refreshed OpenActive's mission and vision and set some long-term objectives for the initiative. And those long-term objectives have become really important to develop the business case. So in May, my highlight in May was a webinar, a W3C webinar that was presented by Imin. So by this point, Imin had been working in the background for a few months, delivering some work to ensure that OpenActive's technical infrastructure was fully documented and maintainable for the future. And I think in this screen grab, Nick is presenting some work that he's done to improve the OpenActive status dashboard and to make that easier to maintain for the long term. This maintenance work with Imin has been a kind of continuous theme over the last 12 months, and actually we've just started the final phase of work with them, which is our team and the Imin team co-working to complete knowledge transfer. But actually getting some of the fundamental issues with the infrastructure resolved has been really valuable and a real highlight for me. In June, we updated the supply marketplace. So the supply marketplace is a part of the OpenActive website that connects people who want to do OpenActive to use OpenActive with companies that can help them. The old marketplace was quite hard to navigate. It was basically a list of companies. And what we were able to do with the refresh was we were able to categorize suppliers based on their own descriptions of themselves. and we took a use case approach. So I don't know if they're readable on the screen, but those multicolored bars are different use cases for OpenActive, and when you tick one of them, you get the list of suppliers who can deliver that use case. If you're a supplier and you're not in the marketplace, we can add you. We would love to add you. Just let us know. My July highlight was a piece of comms that we did. So in July, the ODI contributed to London Data Week, and our contribution was to essentially present a daytime magazine television program about data, imaginatively titled Data Time TV. And we had a really nice panel session around sport and data, chaired by our Director of Corporate Affairs, Emma, with colleagues from London Sport, Fulham Boat Club, and ODI. And we had a really nice rounded discussion about what needs to happen to make better use of data in the sport and physical activity sector. In July, we also started work on our governance for OpenActive, and we did quite a lot of research and quite extensive stakeholder interviews, and we pulled all of the results of those together in August. And actually going through that process was really good, because it helped us understand that OpenActive is still an initiative that is valued. 91% of people agreed that there's an ongoing need for OpenActive. There was a really positive recognition of the work that OpenActive has done. There was a clear desire for OpenActive to remain as a not-for-profit initiative. But there was also an underlying theme that there is a lot more that OpenActive needs to do. We used this research to inform the development of the business case for OpenActive. And the aim of the business case was to identify the most viable future operating and governance models for OpenActive. The business case did a few things. It reviewed the strategic case for OpenActive using this insight and input. It explored the economic case, analysing different operating models. It assessed financial and commercial opportunities and implications for these operating models. And it also set out considerations for the implementation or the change of structure in a management case. In September, we took the business case report to the OpenActive Steering Committee. The Steering Committee, for those who don't know, includes ODI and Sport England, but also a group of industry leaders. They spent a day reviewing that business case document. Within the document, there were 8 options for the future of OpenActive. Each of those was discussed at length. A note of that discussion has been published on the OpenActive website. But based on the analysis and discussion, the committee recommended that ODI should continue to steward OpenActive while seeking new funding and exploring new options to establish a new data institution to steward OpenActive alongside other data standards. I think the other big thing that happened in September was the Paralympics, and this was really big for OpenActive. So Paralympics GB run a service called Everybody Moves, and as part of the coverage of the Paralympic Games on Channel 4, Everybody Moves was promoted 4 times a day with a QR code for people to directly access the website and find accessible and inclusive sport. This generated huge spikes in traffic to Everybody Moves. I think the last leg managed to kill the website a couple of times, but they managed to get it back online really quickly. But what a lot of people don't realise about Everybody Moves is it's fed almost entirely by data from OpenActive feeds. Without the OpenActive data feeds and the filtered view of that, providing information accessible and inclusive sport, Everybody Moves wouldn't really work and wouldn't really operate. And it's just a really nice use case for OpenActive, and it was really nice to see that site being promoted nationally and getting the responses it got. Paralympics GB have quite a lot of data about what exactly happened during the Paralympics with the site, and we're pushing them to write a blog post about it, and that will be hopefully coming soon. In October, we did quite a lot in October, but actually one of the really nice things we did in October was publish a case study from the FA focusing on their work to improve choice and experience of football players by creating more opportunities for people to play safe, inclusive football. The FA have made a really good use of OpenActive to develop their Find Football service, and they're on the cusp of publishing an open data feed with all of their football opportunities. I think building relationships with organisations like the FA is going to be really important going forward. So in November was an interesting month. We had to think about what the future of our OpenActive project looks like in the light of the steering committee's decisions, and I'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute. But reorientation and thinking about reorientation was probably the highlight in November. And then finally, just in time for Christmas, we've been busy throughout the year actually, working towards building a dashboard for OpenActive. The dashboard provides statistics about OpenActive's data, where it comes from, what's represented in it, and it experiments with comparing that data to other administrative data so that we can understand the performance of OpenActive. The dashboard, as you see it, if you have a look at the URL, the dashboard you see is really the tip of the iceberg. Sitting behind that is a huge amount of data analysis, data quality improvement, data engineering, which has enabled us to build a central repository of OpenActive data to serve services like this dashboard. It's also enabled us to better understand the quality of OpenActive data and to understand some of the things that we should be focusing on with the data itself. So they're my 12 highlights of 2024. I guess my next question is, what are your highlights? So I proposed, Tim, we just have 5-10 minutes where people can tell us what their highlights of OpenActive have been in the last 12 months.
Brilliant. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, really good overview of all the stuff that's been going on. Does anyone have any questions for Andrew based on anything he's just said, or does anyone have particular highlights or things that you've been working on in your organizations that you would like to add into the mix and let everyone know about here?
Happy to jump in there.
Yeah,
thanks for that, Andrew. Super helpful just to get a summary of the year. And yeah, I think there's some exciting opportunities that have been presented, and we've been doing quite a bit of work thinking about different types of relevant data that's available across sport and physical activity that can help encourage people to get more active. I think basically there's been key change, which has been the ability for LLMs to structure unstructured data, which essentially, in our opinion, and we've kind of tested this across different data types, makes fundamentally the opportunity to publish data in the format it's already in more easy for publishers. So an example of that is previously there's been focus on kind of opportunity data, event-based data, which might quite possibly be the hardest data to get because it's real time and in a few systems, and it's about getting those systems open. But we've seen opportunities to collect provider data at scale, connect that with session or opportunity data, and essentially transform that data into a standardized structure. We're still refining kind of how that meets with some of the OpenActive data, some of the standards for organizers, for example, within OpenActive. But like our sense is that we can repeat this across multiple different data types, and hopefully the objective is to reduce the burden on systems, reduce the burden on providers, and try and help automate kind of data collection and transformation across the industry. So I think there's a huge opportunities there that we're working on quite hard at the moment.
Great, thank you, Tom. That sounds really exciting, really interesting. Did anyone else have anything, either any questions for Tom, questions for Andrew, or any particular highlights that you'd like to share?
We've got a couple of our districts now are now looking more seriously at binders. So we're trying to see how we can progress that forward. So there is some movement on it, but still not quite getting the leisure services data that we were hoping we were going to get.
Great.
Just to add in as well, I think from our conversations, there's a lot more traction within NGBs as well. So I think from an engagement perspective, it's worth discussing with like maybe creating some sort of forum where the NGBs, I think, especially when you start looking at club data, they hold quite a lot of the most up-to-date club data. And so you can use that as the basis for getting more availability there. And I think it would be worth kind of exploring in the future the definition of an opportunity. I think from our perspective, it was been kind of initially structured around larger providers, as was the approach to first tackle the kind of head. And I think there's some nuances between how it works for larger providers versus smaller providers. And smaller providers, I think the definition of an opportunity is a bit more open, right? So there's not necessarily that kind of automatic publishing via a system with very specific times and availability. There's kind of more, they're sharing this information, but it is in their own way. And I think currently there's been a bit of a burden for these providers to essentially publish their data themselves via tools like OpenActive. And I think there's opportunity in that
Sorry,
space.
Tom, can I just, Nick, do you mind muting? Sorry to be quite a lot of background
Oh,
noise.
so sorry. I didn't know I was unmuted. Apologies.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Thanks a lot. Sorry, Tom, to interrupt.
Yeah, I think there's just some opportunities to discuss kind of maybe in more of the technical conversations, but just a way around, I think, automating as much as possible of the and making it easier to publish data with or without a booking system. I think that's some interesting spaces to explore, and how that aligns with open referral data as well. I think from our end, we've got a couple of projects where we're integrating both data types, and again, thinking about it as a provider data is more aligned with opportunity data being more specific to sport and physical activity, but kind of aligning those more closely with just a lot of interest across a lot of local authorities, etc., and organizations who want to essentially centralize information about local providers, services, opportunities, etc.
Are you reading my screen, Tom? That's exactly what I've got. Well
yeah, I've hacked into your computer, mate.
Interesting. Thanks, Tom.
The softer definition, well, I felt was interesting because things like Parkrun will say every Saturday, and that's as much as they need to be happy that they're promoting their activity. If that Saturday falls on a Christmas, obviously it's not going to happen. You should check in advance. But being able to bring in the kind of, yeah, we think it's here, but check in advance would actually just multiply our system tenfold. I'll shut up now.
I think the really interesting stuff, Tom, around that after the opportunity definition, and we know from the work we did on the Club Finder kind of capability and that level of to tailoring the data or the systems to accommodate that level of data. So it's got a location and an activity and an organizer. It might not have a dated and timed event, but that's like one level of making it easier, I suppose, to get that information out there. And we looked at a couple of different approaches to that, but I think it's just there's lots to think about, I think. And we did start the conversation there on GitHub around how the specifications could handle club level data or location level data. But the overlap with open referral is something we've considered before, and something we will pick up again, I'm sure, in the new year.
Yeah, I think, sorry to hog the conversation, but it's just interesting. I think there's kind of an initial view of OpenActive, which was very driven around booking. And for that use case, there was these sort of things are necessary to be accurate. They're always necessary, but like when the journey is more information discovery, there's essentially a bit of a lower barrier to that detail, like Jules referred to earlier. Every Saturday, if they're not actually booking that right then and there and booking it and it being wrong, then essentially the next step is to essentially contact the provider or just find out more on their website or whatever, which then essentially reduces the risk of the data being slightly wrong, but dramatically increases the ability to publish it.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I think, do other people have kind of OpenActive highlights from the year? I know that my team at ODI do, because I haven't talked about everything that they've done. They've been quiet and modest, I think, trying to let people have goes. But yeah, what else has been good this year?
I do a couple from my men. We've got Decathlon using open data on their website, activities.decathlon.co.uk, which is pretty cool. That's open data, not yet bookable, but booking will follow. We're close to that being ready. And the LTA also making use of open data on their website, as well as lots of other organizations we've been working with, various sides of the Activity Finder, and looking at AI as well, and then the chatbot to help people. We've got one live chatbot to help people to find data using a different medium. So there's some highlights. So very exciting to look at AI in the future as well, in terms of what we can do next year to help unlock the tail with AI. So very much looking forward to that. And also, I think something else that Tom said I thought was a really good idea, is this idea of NGBs. We've got some great success stories with NGBs. And a while ago, we kind of set up a little bit of a kind of approach to going through them, and try to kind of find out what the strategy is for each one, maybe, something like that. And then we had a water forum, I think, with the water-based NGBs, and then we got kayaking, keen to move, all this kind of thing. I think there might be an opportunity in 2025 to focus on NGBs really as a bit of a particular thing, and just say, let's take some really good examples. We've got EMD, we've got Badminton England, we've got LTA, we've got, these organizations already doing some great stuff. And the solutions don't look the same in each case. It does need some thinking. It's not just a case of do OpenActive and there you go, yes. But I think a consultative approach is available, and I think there's ways that we can figure that out. I've written a whole page of ideas on this particularly. So when Tom said it, I was like, yes, mate, NGVs, let's do that in 2025. That's me.
Thanks, Nick. And I think you might have seamlessly segued into the reorientation, because there is some focus on NGBs. But yeah, just to pick up a couple of quick questions in the chat. Jules asked Nick if you can just repeat their website for the decathlon, because he didn't quite catch it. For the decathlon activity finder.
I think Andrew's got the URL correct in his response, but let me double check that it's right.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Activities, that is it. Yep, you got it. They had a big social media campaign and they drove a lot of traffic to it in end of summer, and they're doing something similar next year. So that'll be exciting to see.
Fantastic. Thanks, Nick. I'm not
Who's
sure
delivering
how
it?
you're doing for time, Andrew, with what else you had planned, but just
I
conscious
only need
I'd like to
10
give.
minutes for the second part. So if people have got other ideas or other thoughts on things that have been good this year, I'd be really interested in hearing them.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. So yeah, maybe just no pressure if you haven't got anything, but Grace, Yasmin, and Noam, if there's anything in particular you would like to mention, or any questions or anything you would like to raise at this point. But like I say, no pressure if there isn't. Noam.
Yeah, I mean, for us, something we focused on this year was around the OpenActive integration. So on our system, we had an integration, but it required a bit more work, and we put a lot of effort with the help from the guys at IMIN, and that's now live. So basically, any organization using our system can now publish their specific sessions and link that to activity finders, which quite an exciting moment for us and the organizations using it. We're now just looking for more use cases, so ones that picked it up, and then that we could kind of celebrate that. But yeah, that was quite a big one for us.
Thanks for sharing. That sounds really exciting. And yeah, we'll maybe Howard and Darren, we might have to follow up with you and double check that you're appearing in all the relevant places on the OpenActive website. Make sure you're getting that sort of promotion and that highlight that you've done that work. Grace or Yasmin, did you have anything? No pressure if not.
Mainly just from a SaaS point of view, it seems to be a bit more of an organizational priority now. Sort of SMT, our senior management team, are all a bit more on board with the idea of open data. So yeah, that's just a general positive, I think, from 2024.
Yeah, definitely. That's always really encouraging. So yeah, nothing to sniff at. It's a really positive step. So well done. Yasmin, if you're still there, did you have anything you wanted to touch? I know you're doing some great stuff in Kent with the campaign and the website you have down there.
Sorry, Tim, my Zoom's not working very well, but yeah, just on a local level, there's been a lot more awareness within clubs, a lot more people coming forward asking about open sessions and how to get activities on. And also, I've been meeting with Nish a few times through the year and just finding little glitches that don't necessarily work and just kind of trying to fix those. So they've been good.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Yeah, sounds like there's a lot of amazing stuff going on. So really exciting and yeah, stuff I think everyone in the community can be really proud of. Andrew, you're on mute.
Sorry, just a bit of background noise here. Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to hear the things that people are doing, and I think sometimes when you're sitting in your bubble, things feel quite small, and actually the effort that goes into doing things like making senior teams aware, getting activities into an activity finder, getting organisations like the Decathlon to use open data. There's huge amounts of effort and time and commitment that go into making all of these things happen, and the sum of them is really valuable. And it's really good to hear about it. Thank you. Darren and Howard, you're the only ones who haven't told us what's been good this year. And is there anything that I missed in my 12-month gallop that you think I should have mentioned?
Howard, do you want to take it away?
I can say, well, yeah, I think I'll just say what I think was really good. But we had some good progress on routes on that side of the specification. So this is opportunities for self-directed activity. So it might be walking the park, it might be going running, cycling, canoeing, whatever it might be. But there's an opportunity there for us to make information about those opportunities more readily available, but a little bit of a challenge there about how we do that alongside the other kind of bookable events or dated and timed events somewhere. So we've had a good conversation with the National Trust and we're progressing that work, and that's picking up in the new year. The big challenge we found, and we have had a route specification on OpenActive for a little while, but now we'll learn about how people have tried to implement that and some of the challenges they've come across, mostly around how you describe the accessibility of a route. And so there's a lack of kind of a language or vocabulary there. So that's one of the things that the National Trust is trying to pull together, get all the people who are interested in this outdoor space, outdoor activities, to get their heads together and kind of come up with an agreed language for how we can provide enough information so that someone can make a decision about, for them or their group or for the weather, whatever it might be, whether that activity is right for them right now. So I think that was really good. The stuff on clubs, we need to kind of keep that moving. We also had a couple of new feeds come along through the year, I think, which I'm not sure we've mentioned them. So we had, was it Archery GB? Nick, you'll remember the details, maybe it's more than me, but we had Archery GB and possibly a few others as well.
He says frantically checking the data catalog. not off the top of my head, I'm afraid, but we can have a quick look. But yes, Archery, a good gym, I think, is just about to republish their data, having had some time out where their data wasn't quite there.
Play football, I think that was this year, was it? Yeah.
Possibly, or republishing.
Yeah.
Obviously, Upshot has been mentioned.
Yeah, so it's just good that so some of those other providers, when we had, the specifications did develop a little bit over time. But it's nice that some of those early people who got on board early on are kind of keeping up to date with the specifications and updating things. So that's great to see.
Awesome.
Sorry, Andrew,
Thanks, Darren.
that's me.
Darren, last but not least, is there anything you would add?
No, I guess I'll just highlight the Club Finder stuff firstly, for the benefit of anyone that wasn't monitoring the chat, and also for the benefit of the recording as well. So, Jules asked for an update for like Club Finder stuff, because it's been a bit of an on-off conversation for about a year or so now. And for anyone not aware, we did have a bit of a push with Everybody Moves in the run-up to the Paralympics in summertime, who are interested primarily in the kind of Club Finder approach, and we supported in the production of a MVP proof of principle tool with a very simplified user interface, just running on a Google form basically, which feeds a spreadsheet. That spreadsheet is then read by some back-end code, and then produces a feed which could be read in by activity finders as usual. With importantly, it kind of used a little bit of a custom type, which meant that we could have activity information, location information, organizer information, but not tied to any specific times as such. There were no like events of things happening. We just wanted that club level information, which seems to be desired by a number of people. So we pushed it to that point, and it basically just now needs further discussion, further incubation, maybe a further AEF meeting earlier in the year. We can show you where we've got to, and keep pushing that one. So it's a bit of a slow burn, but it has been moving forwards behind the scenes. So that's one thing to highlight. And I guess the second thing to highlight as well is that Howard and I have done quite a lot of work over the last few months on a system which we're calling the OpenActive Monitor, which is looking at the full OpenActive data ecosystem and trying to put out some essential high-level KPI insights from the whole thing on a daily basis. So it reads the update of all data from all feeds overnight and produces us some numbers that we can dig into, and we'll be mining that for further insights and further nuance in the new year.
Thanks, Darren. Yeah, really good insight.
So
Howard, sorry.
Just on that one, Andrew. So we should probably explain. So you saw the URL was in the slides or on screen before. It is there live on the website, but we haven't kind of made a direct link to it yet. It is, I suppose, in beta. We're just satisfying ourselves that it's working neatly and that the stats and things are right. So, but if you take a look, by all means, please send us any feedback. That'd be great to hear.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So I think that's this first part of the session done. Tim, should we put the slides back up?
Cool. Yeah, can you see that again now?
No.
I haven't stopped sharing at any point, so I can stop and reshare.
Can other people see the slides?
No.
They can.
No.
I'm seeing what was your 2024 OpenActive highlight? I'm getting
some of us can, some of us can't. That's weird.
Ah, there's two. There's now two tabs at the top of the of Zoom, which I hadn't seen before.
There we go.
One of them gives me the slides.
It's user error here. Sorry. So, if we just move on to the next slide, then. So, as trailed going through the highlights of the year, one of the things that we've had to do here at ODI is rethink our OpenActive project. And what I want to do here in this next 5 minutes is just give you a really top level overview of what that looks like. So if you just go to the next slide. So these are the long-term strategic objectives for OpenActive that the OpenActive Steering Committee has defined. The first one is that the physical activity sector is served by an independent initiative in the long term. The second one is that OpenActive is seen as a key component of national data infrastructure, that it's robust, it's easy to use, and it's sustainably maintained. And the third one is that physical activity providers are being proactive and publishing standardized open data. And that's really important because it enables people to understand and access opportunities to participate in sports and physical activity. These objectives were developed by the steering committee over a 6-month period and form part of a new strategic direction document that's published on the website. There's also a refreshed mission and vision in there, and there were some first thoughts about activities that would need to be delivered to deliver these objectives. And these strategic objectives are really important. They're still valid, but actually, because of the discussions around the business case and the conclusions from those discussions, we need to think about what we do a little bit and perhaps refocus the project here as ODI. So if you just move on to the next slide. So as I said earlier, we conducted quite extensive research to develop a business case. That business case includes 8 different governance models for OpenActive, and we presented it to the steering committee who spent a day discussing it. Because of the decisions that the steering committee made at that session, which I think I ran through earlier, we had a conversation with Sport England and a realization that we needed to change how where we are focused as an OpenActive team here at ODI and subtly and change things that we are delivering. There is a requirement that over the next 24 months, we need to work together to establish some sort of data institution that can manage a range of open standards that are focused on public health and community service. That's kind of our long-term objective. And that independent institution will give us the independent organisation that we need to look after OpenActive in the long term. But if we want to achieve that, we need to do a few things. We need to continue delivering the core technical infrastructure. We need to engage with policymakers to help them understand why doing that is a good idea. And we need to find funding and develop a sustainability roadmap. So if we have a look at the next slide. We're moving from having a project that's structured around 5 work packages that we defined back in January to a more focused project that's focused around these 3 core areas. Within the infrastructure area, what we want to do is make sure that we've got a core technical infrastructure that can be managed efficiently and effectively, and that is sustainable for the long term, that is easy to use, and doesn't have a reliance on any single point of failure. In the policy and advocacy space, we want to make sure that we have a wide range of organisations participating in the AEF and the W3C. We want to make sure that we are growing OpenActive's role, awareness of OpenActive's role in government steering. Sorry, in words. We need to make sure we're growing OpenActive's role amongst government decision makers and stakeholders. And we actually want to move OpenActive into new sectors. So with the new government, there's a really strong focus on health, for example, and there's a really strong focus on prevention, not cure. And we think OpenActive can play a really important part in that. And then finally, we need to work out how we make OpenActive's funding sustainable for the long term. And we want to understand the social and economic value that OpenActive can provide. And we want to make sure that OpenActive is interoperable with other data infrastructures and other data standards that exist. And that point about OpenActive and OpenRefer is something that we are looking at and exploring in some detail at the moment. I won't talk to the next 3 slides in too much detail, but these 3 slides will be, the presentation will be shared and you can read them at your leisure, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Essentially, on the infrastructure, what we want to do is we want to stabilise the infrastructure and reduce technical debt, and we want to improve the usability and resilience of the infrastructure. We've got some activities that are one-time activities, which we aim to deliver before April, and we've got some business as usual activities, and we've also got a set of prioritised engagements. And coming back to your point about engaging with NGBs, a lot of our priorities engagement involves national governing bodies. I think we've all realised that the NGBs have a role to play in physical activity data infrastructure, and we want to help them do that. On the policy and advocacy piece, our objective here is to establish OpenActive as that national data infrastructure with decision makers. We're going to have a real focus on engaging ministers, senior civil servants, particularly those responsible for health and well-being. We're in the process of delivering a communications and advocacy strategy and plan, and then we'll be implementing that plan through till the end of the grant period. Fundamentally, we want to raise visibility of OpenActive and make OpenActive more important in the minds of decision makers. And then finally, the sustainability package. This is about actually creating ways for people to invest in OpenActive, both in terms of investing time, but also importantly, investing money. We have activities ongoing to bid for funding from new funding sources. We're initially targeting the Communities Fund. We're having funding discussions with Sport England, and we'll be looking at other sources of funding that we can make applications to in the new year. This sustainability piece relates really closely to that policy piece, because obviously it's easier to ask people for money if they understand how spending that money will help them achieve their objectives. But the plan here is that we get to the end of the current grant period in June, and we know that there is secure funding for the future to enable us to carry on. So that is a really quick run through of the reorientation of OpenActive. I think things that are different, there is less focus on use cases in the short term. We recognise that we need to be more strategic, certainly in the short term. That doesn't mean the stuff that we've been doing with use cases is wasted. The use case framework is still there. Continue to have conversations with organisations, developing and all of the work that is massively valuable, and we want to keep talking about that and listening to things that people are interested in, things that people want to do. Yeah, so that's kind of where we are at the moment.
Brilliant. Thanks, Andrew. I don't know what else, if it's just any other business. So yeah, I guess thank you, Andrew, for running us through that. There's quite a lot of information there. So it might have been quite hard to digest, but as Andrew said, the slides will be shared. And if you're watching the recording, the link to the slides will be in the description of the recording underneath the video. So yeah, please feel free to click through and have a read through at your leisure. But if anyone has any questions for Andrew on anything he's said or covered that you can think of off the top of your head, then please do shout now. And yeah, if you have any other business that you'd like to cover as well. And I'm sure if you do go away and look through the slides later on, and questions pop into mind later on, then you know, feel free to send us through those questions through any of the usual channels. We'll be happy to try and answer them as well later on. So yeah, any questions or any other business that anybody wants to cover in the last 5-10 minutes of the call? Yeah. Doesn't look like it. Andrew, anything else you'd like to add or close with, or?
I think the only other thing that I wanted to mention is when we're going to have the next meeting. So I think we won't have an AEF meeting in January, and we will be meeting again in February. And we're just thinking at the moment about what that meeting will be and what it will be like. But we'll try and share that as soon as we possibly can. So I think the next AEF will be February. I think that was all I had.
Cool, thanks, Andrew. Sorry, Tom, I think you unmuted just as I cut you off and went to Andrew. Was there something you wanted to say?
Very observant, but no, I was just going to break the silence and say all good from me.
Brilliant, thanks, Tom. Cool. In which case, I think we can maybe bring the meeting to a close there. Thanks again, everyone, for coming along. Really great to see you all. Hope you have a safe and happy holiday period, whatever you're up to. And yeah, we'll look forward to catching up with everyone again in the new year, if not before. So thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great
Thanks,
Christmas.
guys.
See you all.
Everyone.
Happy Christmas. Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.